philosophy of putting the show together was to make it accessible to people who've never seen the X-Files, so they can come in and get the feeling of what we loved about it. Those Monsters of the Week episodes, the mythology episodes, the creepy darkness of the X-Files, but also to make it fun for people who are super fans like us. So those little references or acts that are based on specific characters or acts that are based on specific episodes.
Why burlesque now?
I think it's the right time culturally to start combining burlesque and pop culture in a way where you can do an entire show on the X-Files because people will come to it. You can do an entire show on Joss Whedon. People want to see that. But I think it's far enough away from it, too, that we can actually sort of reinterpret some of the things that we loved about the X-Files. Because that's what I love about fan art, is not just trying to show a picture-perfect recreation of that thing, but show why we loved it or what was emotional about that thing. And I think that burlesque is at a point, too, where people get that it's not just a pretty pinup girl who looks like Betty Page taking off her clothes. There can actually be more. It can be creepy and weird, or it can be sort of sexy and wonderful. It can be sad. Burlesque can be sad. So it just seemed like the right time for me to sort of pull my favorite obsession, because burlesque is all about obsession. It's about loving something and wanting to share that with people. So to take my obsession for the X-Files out of the closet and actually celebrate it with people, obviously, like you folks who can't come so far to see the show.
California. So how long have you been a fan, Miss JoJo?
I have probably been a fan, I admit, not since the show premiered, but shortly after. So in high school, I'm dating myself, right? I started watching the show. I remember I was actually house sitting for somebody, and I watched their VHS tapes of season 1 by myself and couldn't fall asleep. And therefore, I knew that I was hooked. And then when I went to college, that's the only thing that me and my college roommate talked about on the phone when we had our little meet and greet, was that she liked the X-Files. And I was like, this is what we have in common. So I started organizing, like, watching parties in my dorm room. And then I got to be known as that Scully girl, because I would dress up. And then shortly thereafter, I met two friends in a stage management class, because we were on the theater school at the University of Oregon, and they were talking about the X-Files. And we have become best friends because of the X-Files, and we watch it together every Sunday. So the X-Files and my college experience are sort of synonymous with each other. And then I moved away from school. It was like 2000. The show changed a lot. I stopped watching it. I couldn't do it anymore.
You left them alone.
I left them. I admit it. I also felt like I had to be an adult because I was going off into the world. And I think for about 10 years, I sort of denied my love of the X-Files. It was very secret. That diorama that you saw, I hid it in a closet. I didn't want anyone to see it. Because fandom was something that you hid, or a lot of people hid. And one of the things I have loved discovering in the last 3 years is how valuable it is to really embrace that, and how awesome it is to start to bring people together to celebrate it. You know, I was privately reading fan fiction in college, which is why...
On the DL.
Yes, on the DL. I was reading it during my college job, which was at a copy center. So I could just sit there and just read it all day long. And it was a secret. You kept it secret. So now I'm an adult now. I'm 35 and finally able to sort of embrace my love of the X-Files, which is awesome.
Have you continued with the series to the comic books that recently came out?
I have definitely started reading the comics. I actually started reading comics for the first time like 2 years ago, so I was really, really excited when I heard about that. I am up to speed. I love them. Actually, Joe Harris was so kind as to tweet about our show and help us get 40 issues donated for our VIPs so they can start reading it too, which is really awesome. And I love that we're actually getting to see some of the characters sort of like boiled down to some of their key traits, which is really interesting. Like Scully gets to be a badass again. Like she gets to fight and defend herself. No one's coming, well, thus far, to save her, right? And I love like that we're sort of maybe ignoring a lot of the mythology, but maybe not. Like, I admit that I did not follow the series very well in the last 2 seasons. I have a lot to say about that. We'll probably not have time for it. But I'm like, I thought the cigarette-smoking man was dead. But I love that he's back in the comic. And I love that he's back here tonight, too. And that's, I mean, so much happened in the X-Files, it is so hard to remember what happened. The mythology actually got maybe too heavy or too thick for people to sort of navigate, that for this show, the Burl-X-Files, we get to sort of choose what version of the story that we want to show, or boil it down to sort of like what we as fans want to experience again or show as new, which is kind of what the comics are doing too.
Where can fans find you on social media?
Fans can find me on Twitter at Jo Jo Stiletto, also at BurlX-Files. I also have a website, jojostiletto.com, and I'm on Facebook at Jo Jo Stiletto Events. And if you go and visit any of those, you will find the cast for this show as well, and the crew. And a lot of them have social media that you can visit. They are all crazy X-Files fans, and that's the best part about doing this, is because by the end of the production, we are like a crazy family, and we all know when it comes to fandom and loving something the same, that's really special. And I think even in theater and burlesque, we get that experience all the time, but when you layer on this love of something like Mulder and Scully, it definitely, it makes the experience more fun, like that special love that we all have, and all the little jokes that we all know, right? So, like, I went backstage with my drink, my ice drink with a worm inside, a gummy worm, and the performer actually didn't know. She's like, is there a drink based on ice? And I'm like, yes! She got really excited.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Suede shoes.